Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and today I'm going to bring you a trio of subscriber replays, and we've slipped down the tiers. We're down at tiers 1, 2 and 3 in these three games. So first we've got a game courtesy of Mac driving his LTraktor Tier 1 German light tank. This is, I've kept at least one tank from each tier, or we bought at least one tank from each tier, and this is the machine that I kept at tier 1. I think it's a pretty decent machine, among the tier 1s anyway. But part of the reason I wanted to put these games together was because they're all low tier, and also they show you some of the changes, I guess. It lets me talk about some of the changes that Wargaming have made / are making to the game. So for example, this is a replay from patch 9.6. As of patch 9.7, Wargaming introduced a kind of newbie-friendly zone. What does that mean in practice? Well, it means that those people with, I think the cutoff's 3,000 games, if you're driving a tier 1, 2 or 3 machine, and you have fewer than 3,000 games, you are not matched against, theoretically, the matchmaker does not put you against people driving tier 1, 2 or 3 machines, or people in general, who have more than 3,000 games. That's the idea. So that you have this newbie-friendly zone, so that you don't just have seal clubbers going around kicking the ever-loving bejesus out of poor little new players. And this sounds like a great idea, and it does come with its problems. So, problem number 1, if you're an experienced player, and I'm saying this from my own experience, if you're an experienced player and you are trying to play tier 1, the queue times are horrible. Now, they are horrific. So this is a 9.6 game, of course. All of these games are from 9.6, so the guys didn't have to worry about this at the time, but there's that. Also, I have still been matched up in games with people with far fewer, there's kill number 1 for Mac, than 3,000 games, and I certainly have more than 3,000 games. I've racked up over 18,000 of them. So it appears that this matchmaking isn't really actually working. And it's not as if it dumped me in that game after waiting ages to be able to form a match. That the game, I've noticed being in a game with less experienced players even after a relatively short waiting time. I have been in situations where the waiting time has been so long the matchmaker just went, nope, can't find a game, sorry, I'm chucking you out the queue. So there is a downside to all of this, and I'll be honest, I'm not even convinced that it's actually working, although I was initially definitely one of the supporters of having a newbie-friendly zone. I don't really think it's fair mixing people who've been playing the game for 10 minutes and people who've been playing the game for 3 years. That just doesn't really seem particularly, well, fair, as I say, as Mac picks up his 2nd and 3rd kills. Anyway, that is as it is. So, how's this game actually going? Well, obviously we're on Himmelsdorf here, and Mac's team is winning 9 kills to 2. I mean, this is a bit of a face-kicking, to be honest. Or it is so far, at least. Here's an MS1. You can see that the and this is in common with many guns on low-tier machines, the reload is really, really quick. The alpha damage relative to how much health other people has is really quite high. Kill number 4. But the aim time is not great, especially when you bear in mind how quickly the guns reload. Kill number 5. And Mac's just showing here why I was initially a fan of the newbie-friendly zone, because Mac is a more experienced player, and he's using his tank well. And it's just not really all that fair, necessarily. But, nonetheless... Oh no, Mac! Is this the end of his little adventure? No! Move! Move! Oh no! He leaves the guy on 4 health, and unfortunately dies. Which is a shame, but there we go. C'est la vie. Now, as I say, this game is 12-6, he says in chat. Oh, not quite a Top Gun. This game is 12-6, 13-7. The game is basically over. It's just a case of mopping up the last few miscreants on the enemy team. And that shouldn't take too long. Mac's team have basically won this. And, what does the LTraktor have going for it relative to other tier 1s? Well, essentially, it's got view range, and it's got quite a nice stock gun that people tend to actually use on the tank, so it's not a bad all-round machine. So let's just have a quick look at the post-game stats for that game. Okay, so as we can see from these shots, Mak managed to pick up his ace tanker in the LTraktor eventually. And managed to pick up 5 kills, 734 base experience. He got 617 damage, which when you're considering the gun on that thing does, what, 30, 40 average damage a shot? It's quite a lot. 5 kills, as I mentioned, 734 base experience, putting him at the top of his team whether you look at damage or experience. And if we consider the damage, he's got 2 to 3 times the amount of damage dealt by the next guy down on his team. It's the sort of thing you can do, especially if you're an experienced player. 34 shots fired, 20 hits, 19 penetrations, damaged 7 enemy vehicles, destroyed 5, and came away with almost 10,000 credits profit. He was using the stock gun on that tank. Stock gun, tier 1 weapon, the regular armor-piercing ammunition literally costs 0 credits. And the vehicle is free to repair, so that is 10,000 credits pure profit. But that's from a very good game. Even which means that although all of the money you get in these tier 1 machines is pure profit, you don't actually get that much. Tier 5/6 is still the optimal point to make money. Having said that, let's jump into another game. Game number 2, again, this is one of Mak's games. Moved up a tier now, we're in a tier 2 tank instead of tier 3. This is the Panzer 35-ton light tank. Actually a Czech design, but used by the Germans as a light tank during the early parts of the Second World War. Now, this is actually a tier 3 game. We're here on the Ensk map. Mak is using, this tank gets a selection of different guns that you can use. Mak is using the single shotgun, same gun I used actually, giving you, well, it's not particularly impressive, but 40 average damage and 42 average pen. Is that the way around? Yeah. Which at tier 2 is okay. The armour on the front of this thing can get some bounces, but again, you shouldn't really be relying on it. You've got a massive commander's hatch on top if anybody ever deigns to try and aim for it. And there's a Cruiser 4, and Mak just bounced on the Cruiser 4's turret. Cruiser 4 is not exactly renowned for having much in the way of armour, but when you have such a uninspiring gun, you can actually get some bounces that you wouldn't necessarily have expected. Now, this is a tier 3 game, meaning that, you know, a lot of the tanks in this game have more health, more armour, bigger guns than Mak does. But it's a tier 2 machine. It only sees one tier spread. Panzer 2G, Mak appears to be picking out the guy's turret, which on some of these lower tier machines can be weaker than the hull. Not always, though. And then he's just throwing some shots towards the T-26. The T-26 is probably actually behind cover, but if you can blow away that cover, as a lot of the cover at the end of this map is destructible, then you can take on the soft squidgy tank inside. And Mak is consistently putting shots straight through this Panzer 2G. And the Panzer 2G eventually decides that discretion is the far better part of valour. And Mak's team are winning 4 kills to 2. And he's throwing some more shots downrange again. It's probably only blowing away people's cover at best. There's the T-26 in question, and there we go. That was a bounce. I mean, T-26 is not exactly renowned for having armour, but whatever. Mak takes a hit there. One more shot will finish off this T-26. T-26 was moving on the move. Moving on the move? Firing on the move. That's the phrase I was looking for. And so he failed to do much damage to Mak there. And the scoreline is 8-3 now. I mean, it's looking like this will be a fairly comfortable victory. But I could, of course, always be wrong. Especially as 2 top-tier friendly tanks just died in quick succession. 9-5. Should still go the Allies' way. Now Mak's just looking to try and pick out a third-person shot on this T-46 through the wall. As it is, the T-26 moves forward, exposes himself, and Mak just plumps shots into the guy as the friendly T-46 polishes the fellow off. Oh, but that's a shot into the side. That's going to leave a mark. Don't know what that was from. It didn't look like a massive shot, but that doesn't really narrow it down. It could be any of them. Panzer II and LTP were last spotted in the town, so it would be that T-18. And he is likely using the 2-pounder gun, which means he's going to have good penetration, good rate of fire, relatively good accuracy. Somehow that was a bounce. At the expense of the raw alpha-powered derp of the howitzer. Cruiser 3 there is using the Beezer machine gun. If Mac points his front at this guy, he's essentially immune. His rear, however, can be penetrated. So in this situation, I would not run away from the Cruiser 3. I'd turn around and fight him. He's already demonstrated what gun he's got. And knowing the penetration of the Beezer, Mac should be relatively safe. Having said that, Mac's taken a bit of damage. That is actually more damage than I was expecting, I will be honest. Maybe I've underestimated the penetration on the old Beezer machine gun. The 50 cal. Is it a 50 cal? Can't even remember. Oh well. Long and the short of it is that he's dead and Mac isn't. T-18 is still up top, and there's still a Panzer II in the town. Now I must confess I'm not quite sure why Mac's heading south at this venture. I would probably be going up to try and put some damage into that T-18 before the game ends, but nonetheless, that's a win. Hurrah! Which is nice. So let's go and have a look at the post-battle stats. So here are the stats for that. Again, that was an ace tanker for Mac with 662 base experience. Interestingly, that's less base experience and I think less damage than Mac actually did in the previous game in the Tier 1 LTraktor. And I think that's probably indicative of the fact that I don't think the Panzer 35T is a particularly popular machine. It's kind of a bit insipid and a bit neither here nor there, but nonetheless 662 base XP and 514 damage is nothing to be sniffed at Tier 2. 8,500 credits. Profit, of course, this is a Tier 2 machine now, so it's not all straight profit. You have to resupply ammunition, you have repair costs, but they're both relatively minor. Let's jump into game number 3, and once again we're moving up a tier to Tier 3. Here is game number 3. This is courtesy of BritishB from the SIG clan, and he is platooned up with his clanmate, Captain Indigo. These are a pair of guys that often turn up to my kind of wee little live stream thing on Saturday afternoons. This is a Tier 4 game, which is kind of middle of the road matchmaking for a Tier 3 tank. And, well, sort of, I guess, Tier 3 tanks get slightly shafted by the matchmaker. And BritishB is in the French Tier 3 premium tank destroyer, the FCM 36 Pack 40. In my opinion, although, caveat, I haven't actually played it and I don't think I ever will, horrifically overpowered machine. But, nonetheless, this thing gets a 400 meter view range, and which is ridiculous, and because it's a premium tank, when Wargaming nerfed the rest of the tank destroyers, they left the premium tank destroyers alone, leaving them a little bit overpowered, relatively speaking, but there we go. I'm just going to speed this up slightly, because watching an FCM Pack 40 drive around the battlefield, not exactly the most interesting of pastimes. Anyway, we're here now. British is going to try and get himself in a position to keep an eye on the hill. His platoon mate, Captain Indigo, is already driven up there. And so, British is taking aim at this little kind of region in between these two rocks to try and put some fire down on them. That shot, alas, misses the LTP. Shot number 2. Ammo racks him to add insult to injury. And there's kill number 1. And the friendly team is winning 6 kills to 3. Looking good so far. And just keeping a watch, 6 kills to 4. Oh, there's a DW2 here as well. Hello, turret. And this DW should probably pull back, because if he just sits there, British is going to keep laying shots into him, and that was incredibly unfortunate. British's platoon mate was just running away from the hill. Lack of communication there or something. British didn't realise, accidentally TK'd his own platoon mate. Alas, c'est la vie. Wasn't intentional. Sometimes these things happen. Anyway, DW2 and a Panzer III on the hill. The margin by which the Allied team are winning has been rather eroded. This Hetzer is probably not long for this world. I think the Panzer III is humiliating him. There we go, and the scoreline now reads 7-8. Panzer III and a DW2 to contend with, and British has all the support of absolutely no one. So, Panzer III, first shot tracks the guy, which is actually fairly lucky, all things considered. Second shot bounces, which is fairly unlucky, all things considered. Third shot puts a hole in him. British actually bounces a shot there. I should probably look up the armour scheme of this tank, because I was not expecting that bounce. And British manages to leave the Panzer III a one-shot before switching attention to the DW2. I mean, these guys definitely know that he's here, and apparently they can't. The enemy team can't really shoot all that well. One more shot should take out the DW2, and there we go. There's kill number 2. 3 if you include the kill on his teammate. And the Panzer III's down as well. This leaves the scoreline 9-10. He's already dead, British. He's already dead. It would appear that that Panzer drowned himself, so actually British was able to pick up a little bit of damage on him. I don't know, sometimes the mechanics in this game seem a little bit funky. Anyway, again, we're now going to have to watch an FCM Pack 40 driving, and this thing is really, really rather pedestrian. Grant has been spotted, the British version of the M3 Lee. There he is. BritishB doesn't really have a shot, but the friendly MAA1 puts the poor guy out of his misery. Just going to speed this up again for, say, similar driving related reasons. Oh, sorry. And British manages to find and take out the Su-85B, who was a one-shot. Apologies for speeding through that a little bit quickly, but there we go. British is still moving toward the enemy base at this point. Now, a lot of the enemy tanks were last spotted by their base, but as you can see, the Matilda has decided that he's not just going to sit on his own base and wait for the inevitable. He's going to go and be proactive about it. So, we know the Matilda is not here. Marder 38T and the T28 could still be in this vicinity, however. Marder 38T is on 1 health, T28 is on 58 health, so all this is rather fortunate, if we're going to be honest. Executes the Marder, executes the T28, and suddenly there's only one enemy tank remaining. That's the M37 artillery piece, as BritishB's allies managed to take out the Matilda. And British is going in the search of artillery to kill. Come on, where are you? Almost invariably down here. One shot, second shot should kill him. Artillery misses, and voila. A top gun, 7 kills if you include the friendly. A top gun. And well played. Kind of highlighted, and I did fast forward bits of it because the FCM is so slow, kind of highlighted how slow the FCM is. You didn't get to see the ridiculous view range on this tank, but you got to see the gun in action. For the amount of damage it does, it has a very nice reload, and the FCM is a very, very dangerous machine indeed. Also bear in mind, of course, because this was a tier 4 match, many of the tanks the British were shooting was a higher tier than himself. So, let's go and have a quick look at the post-battle results. So here we go. As you can see, that was an ace tanker for British and a top gun. Now, because the friendly kill on Captain Indigo counts as a -1 against his name, actually including Indigo, BritishB racked up 8 kills, but of course one of them was a friendly, so that does not get him a Radley Walters, but a top gun nonetheless. Very nicely done. 929 average damage, 1098 base experience, which for a tier 3 is pretty impressive, and 6 kills, puts him miles ahead of anybody else, clearly at the top of his team by damage and by base experience. And you can see that the fine for causing damage to allies was relatively small because he didn't actually do that much damage. The ammunition resupply, 1500 credits, nothing too problematic. No repair costs because the vehicle didn't get damaged, and even with a standard account, just shy of 16,000 credits profit, which is pretty good. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed that trio of lower tier games. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. A massive thank you to Mak and BritishB for sending those games in, and I wish you all very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.